Hello everyone, wherever you are watching across Australia, welcome to Presenting to Camera. This is the workshop that's going to help you bring about your authentic self across all different kinds of content and social media platforms. It's going to train you how to present better to people, how to talk, how to make the right notes, and really how to have a lot of fun with it as well, because it's not as complicated as you might think. So let's dive straight into it today. I'm trying to be as energetic as possible. It's a shame I can't be presenting this to you personally. I really wanted to. I was going to do it actually in drag. That's my alter ego, but unfortunately we'll have to wait till next year for that one. So let's get straight into it. So what are you going to get out of today's presentation? First of all, how to look fabulous on camera. And I don't mean, hair and makeup, because you're the expert on that. I'm talking about how to have the correct body language, eye contact, intonation in your voice, how to make the right preparation so that you look amazing. Also, how to create content that's both engaging and builds an online audience. There's nothing worse than looking like you're reading from a script. There's nothing worse than having content that really is only written for yourself and nobody else can relate to. So we'll talk about that as well. Boosting your confidence. We'll have a practice as well at writing your own script and understanding the nuances of different social and content channels, because content is different for every single channel and medium, and trying to have exactly the same video on, say, TikTok as Instagram, as Facebook, won't necessarily perform as you were hoping. You've got different audiences. People go on those platforms for different reasons. All right, so let's dive straight into it. So we're going to cover off basically 4 key sections it's like a roadmap for today's presentation. First, we're going to look at the preparations and considerations when presenting to camera and making your own piece of content. Then we're going to look at the setup for a piece of content, the presenting itself, so that's when you are on camera, shining as you are, and then of course, a little few tips and tricks, because I'm sure many of you will do your own editing and launching on different channels. So there's a lot you can actually do in post to really improve your performance on camera. If you didn't feel like it was up to scratch, and that's reality. The only thing that's live these days is television. And oh, wait a second, I don't even think television's that live anymore. It's often pre-recorded as well. So there's a lot of scope to manipulate what you're saying in the editing room. All right, so I'm going to just dive quickly into a bit about me, because I suppose you want to know about my background, but I won't waffle for too long. I've been working in the production and media industry for almost 10 years now. I've worked as a producer, a social media specialist. I've done brand and strategy for content agencies. And I do know a thing or two about health and beauty. So health and beauty, makeup and beauty, and skin and all that sort of jazz, because I am also a drag queen. That's my alter ego, Tommy. I'm also go by my name, Thomas. And I've been doing drag now for just over 5 years. So I've learned a thing or two about how to present on camera in a certain way with, makeup and beauty, and how to do the right lighting for those sort of looks as well. And how to sort of carry myself on camera, both as my normal self, I should say, I'm crazy as it is, and also as my drag persona. So I suppose I've ranged across all different kinds of formats and channels, broadcast television. I've worked in multiple different channels, and now I am working for TikTok, and so that's the next journey, and obviously learning a lot about how we create specific content for that new medium as well. So I'll dive into all those different mediums in the presentation today. So let's talk about preparation and considerations first. So when it comes to organizing yourself to be on camera, first you've got to look at what your content requirements are. So different pieces of material require different levels of preparation, obviously. But what I say is it's really important to keep it simple and short. Make some bite-sized topics that you're going to be able to present, that are relatable, that are clickbaity, that people would search up and they'd be interested in learning more about. Try not to give everyone everything in your video. So we'll look at that when it comes to writing the script. Then also there's the different channels you need to consider. YouTube's a very different medium to LinkedIn, and a lot of people will still market themselves or create content for LinkedIn, because that's a great way to draw new connections, to also build up your own personal brand. A lot of you obviously be advertising on Facebook and Instagram, very different channels, the way those two operate. But also there's now TikTok. TikTok's one of the fastest ways to be viral these days, because you don't need to be following someone in order to see them on the For You feed. So when you open the app, your material may be served to anybody across the world. So being able to stick to a very specific niche audience and being able to really define your content purpose on these channels is so important. Also, when it comes to creating your content, it's often people ask me, do I write a full script? Do I make some notes? Do I do it off the fly? It's really going to come down to how confident you are on camera. But I would definitely say writing a full-blown script is never a great idea. Reason being is because it's obvious when you're trying to read off a piece of paper, when you're nervous, it doesn't work so well. So we'll talk about writing a few key dot points. So 3 key points often, 3 key pieces of information that you want to get across to your audience, and basically filling in the gaps in between. So if you know you hit those 3 points, you're able to have a conversation with people, and it seems far more authentic. And the final part is pitch, play, plunge. So this is I guess a methodology coined by the creators of YouTube. Pitch is your promotional content. Play is your longer form content that you may have on, say, a TikTok or a story, where you really dive into a particular idea or a skill set. And then plunge is your longer form content, which you'll habitually see on YouTube or IGTV's Instagram TV. All right, so let's talk about content requirements first. It's obvious that it has to obviously be engaging. So ensure that your content, when you're coming up with topics or themes, ask yourself, would you want to hear that as well? Is it something that you've seen a lot of already online? What's your unique selling point? What's your unique idea that's going to make people want to watch your content? Education is so important to self-promotion and to marketing. The reason being is that people go online to learn new skills, to take up new ideas, and these channels like Instagram and YouTube are the perfect medium to reach a new audience as well. So building up a sense of trust with your consumer base is absolutely vital, and this is the best way to do it. Keep your content short and simple. Just have a couple of points. Show, don't tell. So by that I mean, obviously, if you are talking about applying a certain, eyeshadow technique or whatever it is, actually do it in the video. Don't just talk. It's far more engaging, and it's going to increase your watch through rate as well. And that's really important if you want to trend on social platforms. So channels. So this is pretty obvious. Most of you would know what all of these are: TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. These would be what I would say your main channels when you're presenting to camera. So each of them have their own nuances. So TikTok, it's roughly sort of 15 to 60 seconds in length each video. Most will say 15 seconds in length. So your content has to be short and simple. It has to sort of be catchy as well. Often you'll use music because it's a sound first platform. So make sure that there is, you're obviously speaking or there's noise in the video. Whereas Facebook typically isn't viewed as much with the sound. Reason being is people are scrolling through the feed. So you may have subtitles in your video as well as a really good consideration. This video can be slightly longer form as well, so closer towards more than 60 seconds. Also consider how your audience is different on Facebook. A lot of people will be following your page. A lot of people go there to discover news. So being a sharer of news in your industry of beauty, the beauty world or wellness, is really important on Facebook. LinkedIn, obviously thought leadership as a bit similar to Facebook, but to the next level. Anything that's industry related is really important on LinkedIn. Try not to be too self-promoting on LinkedIn. You see a lot of people sort of walking and talking on a beach, talking about how amazing they are and inspirational and this and that. Try and give someone something that they would want to learn, basically. How do I say that another way? Don't be just promoting yourself. Offer people pieces of advice or information that is useful to them. The best way to gain an audience is to give them something that's educational and they can take away that they didn't know before. With YouTube, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, you can have much longer form content. People do typically watch longer form content. However, it still needs to be at least like under 10 minutes for sure, normally, unless it's a very specific idea that you've dived into. Once you've already built up an established audience that are really interested in that specific niche idea. But generally speaking, I'd say a video about 3 minutes is a good spot. Whereas Instagram, again, it's going to be shorter, often demonstrations. You might have a time-lapse video where you showcase the idea whilst you're talking, and then you can overlay that. If you want to have longer form content, obviously that's going to sit on IGTV, and that needs to be vertical video as well. So with TikTok and Instagram story, we're always going to have vertical. Facebook is going to be square, 4x5. LinkedIn is going to be typically your wide, and so is YouTube as well. All right, so writing scripts. As I mentioned previously, try to stick to dot points. Having too much information on a page is daunting, and I don't know about you. If I've got all these words to read, I find it quite it's a lot to digest, really, and your brain's not going to remember it all. If you really cannot do the dot point situation, then I do strongly recommend that you learn the entire script, you rehearse several times, and you make it as natural as possible so it doesn't sound like you're trying to remember what you were saying. Also, it's really important that if you do have a script and you're not learning it, that you use a teleprompter, like an iPad teleprompter app, like Prompt It. I'll go into that in a little bit to showcase what that looks like and how you can make that work for you as well. All right, now let's talk about YouTube. So this is this idea of pitch, play, plunge, which came from YouTube, but you can apply this to all of your content. So pitch content is your top of funnel. And by top of funnel, I mean awareness. It's not great detail. It's really about building your brand. So if you think of top of funnel, it would be something like you'd see a billboard or a commercial where it's not talking about a specific idea. It's creating a lifestyle or a brand behind it. That would be you on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, really just a bit about yourself, a bit about what you know, and if you're selling a product or business, really the general overview, no specific product details. It's supposed to be attention grabbing and super short. Often these videos are like 6 seconds in length, really short videos. So it could just be you saying, this is me, this is my brand, check it out with a bit of a hype reel or something like that. Play is where you can go more down the funnel and start to talk a little bit more about a specific idea or concept. It's definitely still going to be less than 3 minutes in length. And you also need to ensure that you've got a bit of a following when you're creating this content, because they're starting to be interested in what you're having to say. And then plunge. So plunge is when you can dive into longer form content. It's when you unpack certain ideas that are perhaps more technical, or your audience is already quite established and retained. And so you can start diving into longer form content because you know they're going to watch through. People have very short attention spans. The average video that's consumed online is under 6 seconds now. So if you haven't established that audience yet, that longer form content is probably going to be wasted because they're not going to listen to what you have to say. So this content is often really great for tutorials as well, where you can really explain a certain idea or concept. So if you kind of divvy that up, I would say start with your pitch content if you don't have anything already, start moving into a few bits of play, and then dive into your plunge later, and continuously have a bit of a cycle or a spread out of that content so you're not doing all of one. All right. Now I've got a bit of an activity for you. So obviously we can't do this in person today, which is a shame. However, I'll get you to pause this recording once you're ready to start, and then we'll come back afterwards. I'll dive into what we're going to do first. So it's time for you to write your own pitch topic. We've talked a little bit about the nuances of script writing. So let's have a go at writing your own script. Pick a topic like eyebrows or skincare, maybe something else that's you're an expert in, or something that you're interested in writing about, and write a really short script. And by script, I mean a couple of dot points, essentially. Let's make it 15 to 30 seconds max. So how do you do that? Okay, think of the topic in your head. Think of 3 key points, and then next to that, draw an arrow and write 1 sentence next to each of those. Let's go. All right, hopefully you've done that and you've seen the benefit in essentially just breaking an idea down. Now, again, you could write the full script, but the idea is really just to come up with a few key points that you can really hone that in when you're presenting. They're the 3 ideas that'll be in your head, and then you'll be able to fill in the blanks. It's only the 15 to 30 seconds, so you've got to keep it really short. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the setup when you're recording. So you don't need a whole bunch of fancy equipment in order to create an amazing piece of content, to be honest. It's really that simple these days. You can use just your natural lighting and resources. So if it's during the daytime, shoot outside, for example, obviously in a quiet space, not where there's lots of screaming children running around, for example. If you're filming inside, make sure that you've got the camera pointing towards you where there's light coming in. So for example, a window, you can see in that image there, you wouldn't want to do the other way around because there's going to be a lot of shadow. Just those simple basic ideas. If you don't have a lot of natural light, you don't need to have professional lighting cameras. Like today, I've got a couple of just lamps that are both shining in both sides of my face to really light the area because it's the evening and it looks really dark. If I was to turn even one of them off, that looks shocking. So that sort of helps a little bit. And these are just, $20 lamps, nothing expensive at all. Although if you want to go the full kit, I'll talk about that in a minute. Shoot obviously the right format to each channel. And I mean, here, if you've got, if it's Instagram TV or if it's TikTok, for example, make sure the video is shot vertically because it's not going to work otherwise, and horizontally, so 16:9 if you're going to be doing it for YouTube. So if you do have a certain concept that you think is going to work on multiple channels, you will need to shoot it a couple of times or edit it so that it works well. I always say shoot it specifically for that channel. And then boost it. So you can use a ring light, for example, super cheap. I'm sure most of you know what that is. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. And also an iPad teleprompter. So you can just download an app called Prompt It. You can buy a very basic cheap of glass that you can slide your teleprompter into. You put the camera or your phone in front or behind that. Sorry, behind. So it sits there, camera sits there. And then you can basically read through the glass so you can see the whole thing on your screen. Super easy. Very basic, and it works really well. All right, so it doesn't have to be fancy if you don't have a professional camera. You could just use a DSLR camera, though they shoot really well, the Canons these days video. And if you don't, though, you can just use your iPhone. As I mentioned, the teleprompter, that works particularly off the DSLR, but it still does work with the iPhone. A tripod as well to get that level of height if you don't have that. And of course, the ring light I mentioned. So if you want to really light up the area, that's a really good option. If you don't have a couple of lights to set up a 3-point lighting system, the ring light's perfect if it's kind of, fairly close from, say, profile up. All right, so let's talk about presenting to camera. So there's 4 key areas I want to talk about: body language, eye contact, reading from a teleprompter, and voice, your tone, intonation. So let's talk about body language. So when you're talking, naturally, you will notice that you sort of use your hands, you move around a bit, you're obviously not shaking too much. The same applies when you're presenting to camera. When people are nervous, they often fidget, or they don't really stay in one spot. They kind of move too much, or the opposite, they kind of just fold their hands and they don't move, fold their arms, sorry, and they don't move at all. So the idea is to use small gestures in order to highlight certain ideas that you're saying, and use it for emphasis. It's a great way to seem more relaxed and conversational, and your audience is going to be more engaged. When it comes to eye contact, making contact with the camera is really important as well. It's really hard when you're sort of presenting on Zoom, I have to say today, because I'm kind of looking at myself, looking at the screen. But generally speaking, when you're presenting to camera, you're going to look dead in the eyes of the camera lens. I know it's a bit daunting, but it's really important. If you are reading from a teleprompter though, you're in luck a little bit because you're reading the words that are coming from the screen. So you're looking slightly off camera, but the way the camera is set up, it looks like you're reading from camera. It's not like the news people reading the news and the weather. That's exactly what's happening. They're just reading from a continuous motion of text. So if you are reading from a teleprompter, make sure you have a natural rhythm and it looks like you're presenting normally without words. Don't look like you're scanning your head across the screen. Make the text bigger or smaller to suit your level of reading and also the pace of the text coming down. So you don't want to be speaking like this, and you don't want to be speaking like this. Find a natural rhythm and you can read from it accordingly. You'll obviously just find what works for you. And then voice or intonation. So I'm not speaking monotonely through this whole presentation, and I'm not just speaking really high pitched because I'm nervous, or like that too deep as well. So I'm adding some salt and pepper, basically some different levels to my voice to make it again a bit more exciting and energetic and engaging as well. So that's really important. Just check yourself constantly. How's my body language? Am I looking at the camera? If I am reading from a teleprompter, am I squinting? Is it a natural pace? And also, is my voice a little bit dynamic? And am I emphasizing certain words and pausing in the right spots when I need to? A couple of tips from me. Obviously, practice makes perfect. If you haven't done this before, you're not going to be a natural overnight, I don't think. Maybe you will, but obviously don't be too hard on yourself. Do rehearse in front of the mirror. It's a great way to sort of catch yourself out for what your body language is looking like. Are you making eye contact? And do multiple takes as well. Don't forget that it's not live. So, most of the time it won't be live. So if you do, make a mistake, you just start again, or you can cut it together in the editing room in post. So I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. All right, so editing. So when it comes to editing, there's a few different ways you can do this. There's in-app. So TikTok has really cool editing features. Instagram has some as well on their stories feature, but obviously limited capabilities there. If you don't want to spend any money, there are a couple of programs that you can use. iMovie on a Mac, pretty decent, to be honest. It has a lot of editing capabilities. And then if you're on a PC, there's Windows Movie Maker, which you can take advantage of as well. Final Cut Pro X is actually a really cost-effective, I think it's about $350 at the moment, piece of editing software on a Mac that's actually quite easy to use. I mean, you can pick it up in no time and lots of editing capabilities. And if you want something more robust on both Windows and Mac, you can do Adobe Premiere Pro. And that will give you a lot of robust editing capabilities if you really think you're a whiz and you want to take advantage of that. So the reason why I really did bring this up in this presentation is because I wanted you to consider how your presented to camera is impacted by your editing. So for example, overlaying certain videos so that you can hide, you know, mistakes that you may have made. So like a video overlay with what you were talking about or an image or something like that. But also you can speed up and slow down the video. You can add a few effects and it's going to make your presentation skills seem even better. So it enhances the overall quality of the video. And I think that's important to remember, that what you're seeing often is the end product from online, and there's often a lot of editing that's gone into place to make it that polished. So as I said, a few cuts and everything that you thought was a mistake originally suddenly disappears. So do always keep that in mind, because I often forget that myself, that you can fix it in post, but try not to rely too much on that. Get it 98% of the way there when you're recording. It makes it a lot easier for you as well and less time consuming. So a few other considerations today, pre-recording. So even if you are going live, there's still the features where you can actually pre-record, and broadcast television's like that. It's a couple of hours often earlier or the day before even. And that's so that if there are any mistakes, they can be cleared up. When you are going live, make sure you do a tech check beforehand, do a rehearsal at least a couple of times, and really have a purpose for going live. A lot of people these days are going live just because there's that capability, but it doesn't mean it's a great idea. If you just go on there and start ranting, it's not very engaging. And also remember that live means people have to be there at that particular moment. So you may not have a huge, if you don't have a huge audience following, it may not be super beneficial for you in the onset. Cross collaboration as well. I'm sure this will be covered by other people in different topics, but I think one of the best ways to build your audience and following and also develop your own confidence is to collaborate with other people who are like-minded in your industry that maybe have followers or influencers or have some sort of credibility, that you can leverage each other's networks and skills to create more content together and have that hosted on each other's social media channels or other channels. And also remember to keep it fresh. So content is constantly changing. There's new features on social media platforms, new ways of communicating, and do stay on the pulse with that. Do create content in that area, because if you are one of the first, often it's the fastest way to grow a network as well. We've seen that with TikTok, where it hasn't been around for only 2 years now. And some of those original TikTokers are now got millions of followers, for example, particularly in the beauty and skincare categories. So a couple of key takeaways for today. I've really enjoyed presenting this to you, I have to say. Again, such a shame I couldn't be there to do it in person in drag. First of all, content, keep it short, snappy, and digestible. So you don't want to have too much information in one video. Simple is key. If people can't understand what you're saying or understand the topic area, you've lost them. Essentially, that's it for you. Well, not that dramatic, but you know what I mean. In terms of gear, I think lighting is one of the most important things, as well as sound, obviously. So make sure you're not standing too far away from the camera so you can get clear audio. Also, you don't need a whole lot of expensive equipment in order to make it work. Channels, again, make sure you create content specific for each channel. So when you are presenting to camera, alternate how you're speaking and how you're delivering that content and how you're filming that content based on where you know the end result of where it's going to be and what your audience is for that channel. Preparation is super important as well. So it's really a good idea to have a couple of key points. And if you are going to have a full script, whack it on a teleprompter so you can read it really easily. Performance, don't forget that eye contact, that body language, the voice, and make sure you are just keeping it fun and engaging. And, you know, if you have made a mistake, start again. And then, of course, the super important part of this is just be you. Don't try to be somebody else. You're not, you know, Kim Kardashian. Just show your authentic self. And when you do that, your confidence shines through. Your quality of content will be so much higher. People can smell, you know, phoniness and fakeness a mile away. And there's so many people trying to do the same thing these days. The best selling point is yourself. So use your personal brand to build up that following. And, you know, creating that content will really help boost your overall levels of engagement. So thank you so much. You can follow me on Instagram at tommy.granger. That should be a dot, sorry. And I've just started on TikTok with TikTok Tommy with a few cool drag videos. So thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to presenting many times again in the years to come. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.